So we talked a little bit in the past few weeks, actually, about some signs that the old rules were sort of making a comeback over at X, formerly known as Twitter. It started with Linda Yaccarino going on TV and articulating that, you know, they are going to flag unsafe posts versus safe posts, and that freedom of speech does not mean freedom of reach, right? So there have been some ominous signs going on in the past. We've learned a few days ago that Twitter had been throttling links from some of their more hostile competitors' sites like Facebook, Instagram, Substack. And now we had a post from the Twitter safety team, Trust and Safety, that went viral for all the wrong reasons. So here was the original post. X has a responsibility to put the right systems in place to ensure our communities have access to open, accurate, and safe political discourse. That's why we're hiring more people, updating our policies, and evolving our product. So if you remember, when Elon took over, a lot of the Trust and Safety team resigned. And people thought that was a good thing because it was a bloated department that didn't need to exist in as big a way as it did. They wanted less regulation of speech on the platform. So the idea is, well, fuck it. Good that they left, right? Leave it alone. Now it seems like they are revamping that just as election season heats up, as we turn the calendar from summer to fall here in 2023, and consciousness is about to explode along with engagement. So before we read the blog post itself, which was linked to, I just want to show you the ratio as of yesterday. I prepared this graphic yesterday, so it's probably even worse now. But as of last night, 1,755 likes to 6,365 comments. That's what we call in the business, folks, an epic ratio. Epic ratio.
And I understand that was actually George Takei liking it 1,755
right.
times.
George Takei using George Takei and 1,754 George Takei burner accounts. Yes, who liked that. So here's from the blog post.
Three of them were Stephen King.
Yeah, exactly. Here's from the blog post. During elections, X works to get in front of a range of tactics that people use to target the process. To do this, we hire the right people, update our policies, and evolve our product. Our people. We're currently expanding our safety and elections team to focus on combating manipulation, surfacing inauthentic accounts, and closely monitoring the platform for emerging threats. Our policies. We have rules in place to help protect the safety and authenticity of conversations on X. During elections, our civic integrity policy provides an extra layer of protection that is applied for a limited period of time before and during an election. What does this sound kind of a lot like? Sounds a lot like the kind of shit that went on right around the time that the Hunter Biden laptop story surfaced, right? Before the election, we start really ramping up these efforts. We're updating this policy to make sure we strike the right balance between tackling the most harmful types of content, those could intimidate or deceive people into surrendering their right to participate in a civic process, and not censoring political debate. The policy will also be aligned with our updated enforcement philosophy, freedom of speech, not reach. That's not really an updated enforcement philosophy. That's kind of been the line that we heard at the old guard as well. But we will add publicly visible labels to posts identified as potentially violating the civic integrity policy, letting people know when their reach has been restricted. Okay, so now you don't get shadow banned, you just get suppressed, and they tell you, hey.
I mean, listen, I could be wrong. I never liked Twitter. I never liked the platform. I always saw that it was an emotional toilet bowl. I've become active on it because I'm in a political space, and you kind of have to be, but I still don't like it. I'm not on there that much. All that having been said, ever since we tweeted out clips of the interview we did with Stephanie Wynn and Lisa Selin Davis about trans issues, my tweets are not getting as much visibility as they did. I don't have a huge account, so on average my stuff was doing like 1,000, 1,500 views. Ever since then, they're about 200. Now, again, I don't use the platform a lot. It could be nothing, but it seems to me as soon as I put that out, my
There's certain
my visibility
content-
dropped immediately.
There's certain content that is pretty clearly getting suppressed. There are certain websites that they are deliberately throttling, so we know that for sure. We don't got to read the whole rest of that blog post, but Brett Weinstein responds, "That's some grade A Orwellian bullshit right there."
Good for you, Brett.
Friend of the show, Misty Winston. Just look at all the free speech I roll. Again, accepting all the apologies I will never get from Musk stans who swore he was about free speech and was going to improve Twitter. Same shit, different symbol. I want to say, because we got some people in the comment section saying, well, now you guys are eating shit. What did we say? We said, if you could go back and look it up, we said we'd rather Elon than Jack Dorsey. But we also said the minute he betrays his promise to make it a freer platform, we will criticize him as harshly as we would anyone else, and that is what we did. That's what we did. We've been on this for weeks now.
That's called forming your opinion based on the facts as known at the time.
Right, exactly.
What a concept.
Right. We said at the time we would rather him than Jack Dorsey, but if he turns his back on what he said, we will be the first to call him out, and we'll be among the harshest, and I think we've lived up to that. We've done this now. We've been on this now for the past few weeks. With every development.
You see, this is the thing when you're.
I didn't mean that as a knock on Misty, but I'm not saying she wasn't calling us out or anything. But I'm just saying, in general, we've gotten some comments, right?
But yeah, this is the thing when you're not a hack. You know a hack. They have one position and it never changes, no matter what the facts on the ground are. I mean, we were happy to see him take over from the old regime, and it looked. Like we never really, we were always suspicious because it's a billionaire. It's Elon Musk. Like we always called him an asshole and a scumbag. We basically, yeah, we did. I mean, even when we were supporting him, we say he's an asshole, he's a scumbag, but he's the scumbag we'd rather have in charge of Twitter for the time being, at least based on what he's saying. And we also said, it's a problem of the system that you have to look for which billionaire is going to be better on freedom of speech because the government is so ineffective and not even in the space regulating this. So you're reduced to begging for your speech from the more free speech oriented billionaire, which these billionaires is more libertarian about speech. And we never felt that was a good position to be in. We never felt that was a good place. Now, of course, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Like we're not fans.
Right.
Like, what do you want him to do?
Right,
He can't just lose money. Fuck that motherfucker, man. He's got plenty of money. He could run this thing at a loss if he believed in it that much.
Yeah,
but he doesn't.
Yeah, you could reorient it in ways that I will actually explain in just a moment here, because I want to
he's got trouble with the advertisers, and look, I wouldn't be surprised if part of his calculation, he's got his finger in a lot of pies, man. He needs the government to be with him on Tesla.
Well, yeah,
to be with him on SpaceX.
This is a big problem, of course.
Like, he can't really fight the system without it impacting his other businesses.
So this is Chris Pavlovsky, co-founder, CEO of Rumble. And he quote tweeted this. He says, "What does this mean? I feel like I've seen this before," referencing a little bit of like what I was talking about earlier. So he actually gave this quote in reference to the safety post, but there's another element of this, which Russell just referred to, which is the advertiser. So this is from Reclaim the Net. New X terms to start in September include the old Twitter clause that it can ban you for being commercially inviolable. So this is interesting. We have broad enforcement rights. So these are the new rules, obviously, because they're referring to it as X, which it was just renamed. So X reserves the right to take enforcement actions against you if you do violate these terms, such as, for example, removing your content, limiting visibility, discontinuing your access to X, or taking legal action. We may also suspend or terminate your account for other reasons, such as prolonged inactivity, risk of legal exposure, or commercial inviolability. So what they're referencing there is that if you become a liability with the advertisers, we can just throw you off. In other words, if advertisers don't want to be associated with our platform because of people like you posting shit like what you post, we can just get rid of those posts to satisfy the advertisers. So why did I mention Chris Pavlovsky's tweet from earlier? Because he actually set an example of how I would like to see these interactions dealt with. So this is from PR Newswire, December 2021. This was a post that Rumble put out severing ties with an advertiser over their attempts to essentially cancel the Dan Bongino show, or at least have their ads removed from his show. Today, the video platform Rumble announced the termination of its relationship with the Unruly Group and Tremor International after they attempted to censor Dan Bongino, the host of a nationally syndicated radio show and Fox News television program. This decision reaffirms Rumble's commitment to a free and open internet by hosting a variety of viewpoints on topics of public interest. Quote, Tremor's attempt to censor Dan Bongino violated Rumble's core principles, said Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky. Shadowy activists may not like what Dan Bongino has to say, but Rumble will always encourage open debate without taking sides. That is why Rumble decided to terminate its contract with Tremor. We won't tolerate politicized attempts to cancel creators. So what they're doing on a platform like Rumble, which is an actual free speech platform, which is why I encourage you all to follow us there, is that they're telling the advertisers, look, here's the deal. You want to advertise with us, you can't pick and choose which shows we feature your ads on based on who you like and who you dislike. We are a free speech platform. You sign a contract with us, it's pretty likely that some of your ads are going to appear on some shows that you don't like, where they're going to be saying things that you don't like. You have to be willing to live with that. If you're not willing to live with that, then we are not a good fit for you. That is how you handle advertisers. And if you're Elon, like Russell said, he has other interests that he has to weigh, which is what always made him a sort of wild card, right, in this role. But it's a slower road to the top when you do it the way Rumble is doing it. But that's the only way to ensure that you operate without a gun to your head, because the advertisers will always hold you hostage if you are not willing to stand up to them and say, no, listen, we have a lot of people here, right? If you're the X app now, you say, look, we got tens of millions of people posting tens of millions of posts per day on this thing. You want to be here. We have something that is valuable for you. You're just going to have to be okay with the fact that people are going to post stuff that you don't like. It's that simple. We are a free expression platform. We have access to a lot of people. This will work out very well for you, but you have to be willing to play ball in that way. And if you're not, take a fucking walk. That's the way Rumble does it. And they're growing slower because of it. But I think in the long run, that is the more sustainable model, because as long as you subject yourself to the whims and trends of the time, these advertisers can always pull the rug out from under you. That's what makes big tech such a precarious place for us, right? It's the same thing, just on a larger scale. You make yourself cancelable when you make yourself hostage to the ESG score of Sony, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that has been our long-winded way of saying, starting tomorrow, you can find us on Truth Social.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
We're canceling our blue check.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And we will be interviewing Donald Trump. That was part of the deal.
Right.
Yeah, I not only agree with you. All right, man. I know some of my commie friends don't like it when we start talking like this. Rumble is publicly traded. I didn't actually know that.
It is, yes.
It's publicly traded. This is not to be construed as financial advice. Yeah, I think that's a good investment in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think that there's going to be a tipping point where those platforms are really going to take off, because people are going to, there are going to be so many people who don't want to be censored, or also people who want to see uncensored content.
Right.
And the more sanitized these platforms get, I would say, look, it would be a nightmare for a lot of creators. But if YouTube really does go nuclear and kick the independent media off, that would be the catalyst. Rumble would fucking go off the hook.
Right.
You would have everybody who doesn't want, brain worm fucking breaking point shit would go over there.
Yeah, and I think that reality is starting to set in. I mean, we won't get too inside baseball on the air now, but YouTube has already started to roll out a feature where you could get some of your guidelines warnings revoked if you take a certain course. Because I think
that's interesting. Yeah.
I think they're starting to sense the fact that long term, people are going to invest in organizations that reflect their values. And we still have, for all the horrible faults of this crazy place that I told Thomas Frank we should just let burn, we still have a First Amendment. People here like to be able to talk, and they like to be able to be heard, and they like to be able to listen to people who want to be heard.
Right.
And so this is what I mean. We're like, yeah, you can cave to the whims of advertisers like X is starting to do now. And look, it's no coincidence. They're doing it at the start of the election season, right? That's when these new rules are coming into place, because there's going to be more eyes on them, more pressure on them. You have to be willing to just say, like, no, these are the values of the company. We want your business. We're not trying to turn you away. We want your business, and we have enough people here to make your business worthwhile for you. But you have to be okay. It's not an endorsement of what Dan Bongino says. It's an endorsement of, for that advertiser to want to pull. You're not endorsing what he says by advertising on his show or by having your ad play on his show. It's not like Bongino's doing ad reads, right? It's like you're simply endorsing his right to say what he wants.
Right. That's
it. That's all it is. That's all it is. What is so fucking scary about that? What is scary about that?
Well, I think what's scary about it, we don't, it's late in the evening. We don't want to go too down this rabbit hole. I think the liberal class has nothing to offer economically.
Exactly. Yep.
And most of their culture war positions are repulsive to most people. So at that point, you're not offering anything that's going to put money in people's pocket. And people really don't like your cultural stances. So what can you do other than censor? What can you do other than suppress? Because that an open debate will not favor you.
Exactly.
So you have to go to propagandistic techniques of suppression and just repeating something enough in the hopes that enough people will believe it's true for you to get away with pushing that agenda.
Exactly. I mean, that's really what it is. Censorship is how they prove themselves right, by just insisting that dissent is illegitimate. Even though you could tell by what you see and feel around you that they're not right, because you could tell that their ideas do not work. They do not create better lives for people, right?
No.
But the only way they can convince you they're right is by convincing you that other ideas are simply out of bounds. This way, by process of elimination, you arrive at the conclusion that, well, they must be on to something, because you're not even allowed to say anything that goes against them.
Please clap.